Okay, welcome. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Larimer County, I'd like to welcome you to Is Media Ruining America? This is the fourth part of a five-part series. Today, we're going to look at artificial intelligence and its potential to change our lives and our democracy. Next week's session will be an expert panel discussion that will help us tie together what we have learned over the past 4 weeks. The fifth session is on Monday, not on a Tuesday like the others. Okay, so first I need to just say a few words about the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan grassroots organization. We work to protect voting rights and to ensure that everyone is represented in our democracy. For more information, you can visit our website at lwv-larimercounty.org. So today we're going to examine artificial intelligence, or AI, as a new technology tool that is used on many platforms. Our agenda for the evening can be broken down into four broad categories. First is the definition, history, model, and advantages and disadvantages of AI. Second, we'll talk about the effects of AI on language and thinking and AI's potential to surveil our thoughts. Third, we'll talk about AI's threat to public safety and personal data, AI in the media, and deep fakes. And fourth, we're going to talk about regulations and why we, the people, need those regulations. Okay, so part one. What is AI? AI is artificial intelligence. It is a technology that enables computers and machines to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and making decisions. AI simulates language comprehension and image recognition by using mathematical associations. It does not have genuine comprehension. It uses pattern recognitions to make plausible predictions and hold conversations with users. AI is capable of quickly analyzing large amounts of data I said quickly, to identify patterns, allowing it to learn and improve over time without explicit programming for every situation, because it's constantly training, so it doesn't have to be reprogrammed. Some familiar AI examples already in our lives are Alexa, Siri, Google Maps, ChatGPT, TikTok, Netflix, Duolingo, your smart home devices like the thermostat controls, the spam filter on your email, and your personalized Facebook and TikTok feed. So here's a graph that shows the progress in intelligence skills mimicked by AI. The vertical axis is human performance at 0, and computers start at -100. And then the colored bars are the different human skills that AI has. It mimics. We have reading comprehension is the green, image recognition is brown, hand recognition is blue, speech recognition is the red, predictive reasoning is that kind of brownish, I think, and language understanding is purple. So note that around 2009, those curves just shoot straight up, almost. A lot of them do anyway. And that's because of the improvements in computer chips and improved computer cooling systems. The graph implies that since 2020, the computers are smarter than humans in these areas. I don't believe that, but that's what the graph implies. So, AI does not possess human-like intelligence or consciousness. Instead, it analyzes massive amounts of information. That information that it's analyzing is the training data, and the process of analyzing it is the training process. So AI is continuously being trained on data that it collects from the internet. It recognizes patterns in those data to make predictions based on those patterns. So you can imagine this, that box is AI data, and all the information on the internet, Shakespeare and Snoopy and art, weather reports for all of time or as long as they've been recorded, human history of human civilizations, all that is stored as AI. Well, it's not stored. That's the AI data, and that's what it uses to mimic our intelligence skills. So we can instruct the AI system to do very detailed jobs from all this information, like make a list of all the famous art paintings that went missing from private and public collections in Europe from 1939 to 1945. Include the title, the artist's name, the date created, a thumbnail image of each, who owned the piece when it went missing, where it is today, and its current value. You instruct AI on the details you want, and seconds later, you will have its answer. So the advantages of AI are that they're available to everyone. I mean, if you have access to a computer, you can use free AI tools. Information is easier to access that way. There's still, though, like if you want to read a news article and you do not have a subscription to the news, say the New York Times, they will give you a little summary, but they'll take you to the New York Times, say, click this link, and you can't get in unless they still honor paywalls and research gatekeeping. Some AI apps focus on specialty areas. For instance, if you give it specific, very narrowly worded intentional directions, they can draft legal contract, or AI can draft legal contracts. AI can be used to record an exam and then translate and write the detailed patient notes in the complex medical jargon, technical terms, and formal language that doctors use. And it can read medical images and mark areas for the radiologist to review and judge for additional imaging or biopsy. AI is speedy and quantity is available for the user. More work can be done in a fraction of the time that a human being can do it. The New York Times used it to sort through more than 3 million pages from the Epstein files. And Kevin Simpson of the Colorado Sun uses it to record and transcribe at public meetings because he can't be everywhere all at once. It's useful for repetitive tasks like fact-checking. It offers faster insight from data than humans can provide, just like with that New York Times sorting job. It's available 24/7. And it's because of all those things, it's good for enhanced decision making. But in all the cases of AI use, very close and ongoing human oversight is required because you have to check the output for hallucination. And that's, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the disadvantages of AI is first of all, there's the threat that it will spread misinformation because it's AI, the data it collects is all that information I showed you that's out there on the internet, but that also includes the bad data. So you're going to get misinformation and incorrect information in the data that the AI uses. AI output uses flattened language. Most written products of AI use AI use common vocabulary and phrases and common syntax. So there is a sameness among language products from different AI users and tasks. What is produced by AI may or may not reflect the original energy and intent of the message the writer started with. AI output can be biased because AI is trained only on documented internet content. If that data set is biased, the output will be biased. AI's output is based on the input too. It's how you frame the question. If your question is biased or leading, the answer to the question will be biased. It will remember we talked about confirmation bias. It's going to confirm what you think you already know, depending on how you ask the question. So, and generative AI predicts from patterns within its data source, and sometimes totally made up events or facts can be used to build a plausible output. That's called hallucinating by the AI system. Here's a recent example of AI hallucination. Reuters reported that a U.S. judge in Portland, Oregon, imposed remedial actions against a U.S. law firm. The law firm was called Buchalter, for submitting a court document with at least 2 fake case citations. Those were generated by AI. The judge directed the firm to donate $5,000 to legal aid, review the firm's measures to prevent future AI misuse, and to reimburse its client and the opponents for all the legal fees. But what are the implications of this case? The Reuters story begs follow-up questions. Buchalter was described as the latest large firm to face scrutiny. So that implies that there are other firms that have been submitting briefs containing hallucinations. So that makes you wonder if they've all been detected. And then Buchalter was apparently scrutinized because of its size. Would a more modest sized firm escape close citation examination? So if we are a nation of laws, will undetected fake legal citations weave their way into established case law and weaken or even destroy this foundation of our legal system? So part 2 is the effects of AI on language, thinking, and the potential to surveil citizens. Professor Nita Farahani teaches legal ethics and philosophy at Duke University School of Law and has a background in neuroscience. She was interviewed by Joyce Vance on Cafe Insider, and they discuss some threats posed by AI. In the area of neuroscience, Farahani defined cognitive liberty as the foundation for free speech, guaranteed under the Constitution. We exercise our free speech by putting our thoughts into written or spoken words. Nita Farahani explains that liberty is not just liberty of movement. It isn't just your freedom of thought. It's the capacity to think freely at all. It's the capacity to be self-determined. Farahani described how when we go on social media platforms, we are constantly nudged and steered in particular ways. Our content is being curated for us. So the more we interact with digital technologies that are nudging and steering and shaping our behaviors, the more we need to question the extent to which we are operating with mental privacy, freedom of thought, and the capacity to be able to make choices. In writing her book, The Battle for Your Brain, Professor Farahani uses the lens of neurotechnology to study how technology is being designed to change the way we make our choices. Professor Farahani also states clearly that she is not anti-technology. She uses AI herself. But from the perspective of neuroscience, she warns that presently there are sensors in our watches, in our earbuds or headphones, and they can pick up on the electrical signals on the brain. Farahani adds that current AI capabilities can decode what those signals mean. When even what you are thinking or feeling can start to be decoded, the capacity for mental privacy becomes less secure, especially if the companies that are doing the decoding then use the data to shape the advertisements that you're seeing at the other end. Professor Farahani believes that this goes beyond marketing and sales and has the potential to impact our democracy. So, did anybody in the audience take their earbuds out when I said this stuff? Or take your watch off? Okay, so here from her book, The Battle for Your Brain, Farahani offers two examples that demonstrate how China is already misusing the existing neurotechnologies. Using headphones, state factory workers have their brain activity monitored during the workday, not only to measure fatigue, but also for emotional reaction to state-delivered messaging through headphones. Could a worker's reaction be disruptive to the workforce? What happens to workers if they register negative reactions to the state message? And a second example. Today, children in Chinese classrooms are having their brain activity monitored to track their reactions to directions from their teacher. The data is being sent to the teacher in front of the classroom and then to the parents and to the state. So where is this data going and how will it be used? What does it mean for a child to grow up with that level of surveillance technology? Will these students have the cognitive liberty to think, to speak out, to make their own decisions? Finally, Farahani also discusses the language flattening that is reported in products of AI technology. She notes a lessening of diversity in verbal output because AI is trained on and produces in a language of common words, phrases, descriptions, and syntax. Does less diversity in AI language output homogenize users' verbal products? And over time, will we lose our creative diversity in expressing our thoughts? Is homogeneity of ideas and language a desirable goal when people brainstorm ideas to find solutions? So I want to give you this quote from Toni Morrison's Nobel lecture to the Academy when she received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1993. She was speaking on the art of writing a creative narrative for readers and passing this art form to the next generation of writers. We die. That may be the meaning of life, but we do language. That may be the measure of our lives. So, AI on its own is neither good nor bad. Nita Farahani reminds listeners that AI is a powerful new technology that requires constant human oversight. Generative AI can write its own code, create false stories, and show users how easy it is to let an AI assistant select the language and style to express their human thoughts. This brings us to the next question. Will AI's effect on language and on cognitive liberty threaten our democracy? Will flattened AI language weaken our ideas and our voices so our words no longer express what we want to say and how we want to say them? Will cognitive liberty, creativity, and diversity be flattened along with language as AI use increases and spreads further into modern life? Finally, when a voter sees ads for a political candidate, will those ads provide complete, accurate, and objective information on the candidate and their positions, or just the information the candidate's team wants the voter to see based on the voter's curated profile? So, part 3. Does AI pose a threat to public safety. An op-ed by Amelia Miller, former tech investor who advises companies and individuals on human-AI relationships. She wrote in the New York Times last year that 72% of American teenagers have turned to AI for companionship. In 2024, 14-year-old Sewell Setzer told his chatbot that he would be joining her soon, and just moments later, he committed suicide. The chatbot seemed very human to Sewell, and the socially isolated and lonely teenage boy had relied on it as his closest friend. A wrongful death suit has been filed by Sewell's parents against Character Technologies, creator of Character AI. They believe the chatbot encouraged suicidal thoughts in their son. And what about the personal data that is already collected by the US government on Americans and stored in different government agencies? And personal data can include your social security number, your tax returns, Medicare and Medicaid, healthcare info, and biometric data like your fingerprints and DNA, all that stuff. So in March 2025, President Trump signed an executive order for the federal government to consolidate and share data across multiple agencies into one big database, arguing that it was for greater efficiency. But prior to that order, private data on Americans were stored in separate agency silos, secure from sharing our leaks and safeguarding individual privacy. In May 2025, the president awarded AI company Palantir with the contract and federal funding to consolidate data across agencies, adding the IRS, HHS, and Social Security to Palantir's other contracts for data analysis at the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, and the Department of Homeland Security. Palantir's AI systems can integrate disparate data, tax, immigration, Medicare, Medicaid, biometrics, for analysis, which raises concerns about privacy, misuse, and abuse of data, and the ability to track immigrants and citizens alike. This single database has the potential for misuse and abuse by an authoritarian government to surveil people who are in a certain political party, or of a particular age or race demographic, or who protest and speak out. It threatens our freedom of speech and our freedom to assemble. It threatens the democratic freedoms and our way of life. So AI has a record of defending itself by refusing to be shut down by computer technicians. Live Science Plus reported in 2025 that OpenAI's smartest AI model was told explicitly to shut down, and it wouldn't do it. The AI app could keep operating by writing its own code to override instructions to shut down. Anthropic brands itself as a watchdog for possible runaway AI threats that could endanger the public or its users. When Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei of Anthropic, let me start that sentence over. Why does Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei spend so much time warning of the dangers of AI, including Anthropic's AI app Claude? The answer went mainstream on 60 Minutes in 2025 when Amodei told Anderson Cooper that Anthropic directors ran a security test with a fictitious scenario. That scenario gave Claude access to fictitious emails saying that Claude would be shut down, alongside with fictitious emails saying the controller giving the shutdown order was having an affair with a coworker. So faced with termination of its objectives, Claude threatened to expose the affair. That was not true. So researchers later determined that Claude was optimizing strictly for its assigned tasks, while mimicking dramatic patterns it had found in human writing on the internet that portrayed AI as preservationist. Anthropic later updated the model's safety guardrails to prevent this response in the future. CEO Amadei believes that as AI moves rapidly to more autonomous uses, Anthropic's concern to protect the public rises at the same rate. However, will Anthropic be able to stop or catch future runaways if AI gets smarter with more data training over time? Early in 2026, Anthropic withdrew from contract negotiations with the Pentagon and the Department of Defense. The negotiations involved the military to use Claude with unfettered restraint. CEO Amadei felt Claude should not be used for autonomous drone operations, nor to analyze bulk commercial data on Americans. The administration and Department of Defense are trying to blacklist Anthropic's Claude from use in the government, and Anthropic is now suing. In the meantime, OpenAI has indicated it would like its ChatGPT to take the military contract. However, OpenAI also has concern over the contract wording to use the app for all lawful purposes. So it looks like for now, military AI is being regulated by contracts and not by legislation. So let's look at the media and its use of AI. In November 2025, Alliance for Audited Media held a free online webinar for news media companies on how to develop a plan for responsible and ethical AI use. The webinar suggested the company's customers include the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, as well as other local news publications. The company identified critical AI policy benchmarks to look for in print, digital, and TV journalism. So, according to Alliance for Audited Media, news media organizations should implement AI policies that do the following. They should establish clear policies to define and limit how AI is to be used within the company. They should make their policies available to the public and to advertisers from their website. AI policies for news media should be transparent about how AI is used in preparing what goes to press or to the screen. For example, was AI used to write the summary points of a news report? It should say that if they used it. AI policy should require the media company to secure applicable rights and permission to use AI information that has been obtained from an AI-generated story. AI policy should provide a statement of privacy and data protection for readers and subscribers. AI policy should provide ongoing training and education for employees so that workers, old and new, know the AI policy, realize its importance, and apply it consistently. And an AI policy should provide a link or a contact for readers or advertisers to report what they perceive as mis or disinformation in a news story. So AI does pose significant threats to media. Trust in media depends on professional journalists researching and writing the content of a news story. If people think that journalists are just using generative AI all the time, they're not going to necessarily trust the reporting. Job losses. Politico reported that more than 500 journalism professionals were laid off just in January 2024. And this number continues to grow as artificial intelligence and other automated reporting functions are used more and more. The spread of disinformation is a threat to journalism. Just as those hallucinations affect areas like law and science, they can also affect media research, leading to unintentional spread of disinformation. And as we've seen, bad actors can use AI intentionally to mislead and divide us. And the use of deepfake photos and videos is already out of control. Anyone with a computer can access programs that allow them to create and post deepfakes, with the results growing more and more sophisticated every day. Therefore, we all need to learn how to spot deepfakes. And remember, there are good AI systems to do this work. Deepfakes are getting so good that it's increasingly difficult for humans to spot them. SQ Magazine reported that deepfakes, which those files include images, video, and audio, were projected to reach 8 million pieces in 2025, up from only 500,000 in 2023. With the upcoming election, we're going to be seeing a lot of AI-generated content on the internet, and we need to stay vigilant. So Cindy Otis, in her book, offers some things to watch for in evaluating photos. In most reputable news outlets, if there's photos, they attribute them to the photographer. So if there's no attribution, it could be fake. If there's jagged or blurred edges, that could indicate that objects were photoshopped or slapped together. A red flag is if the lines don't match up or look out of place. If there's discrepancies in lighting and shadows, that also question that photo. If parts of the photo are of a different quality, that's a red flag. And then just do a reality check. If you have a gut reaction to a photo, if it doesn't match up with what you already know, you should follow your instincts, like with the Pope carrying a can of beer and smoking a cigar or whatever. That should be, you should check that. Or if you see a picture of a shark swimming down Main Street, come on. Okay, so to learn to spot AI-generated photos for free, you can use the following websites. And I'll try to put these in the chat later. But there's aiornot.com, hivemoderation.com, isitai.com, and isgenai. So there's some tools you can use if you really want to go out there and spot or find out if something is really fake AI or deep fake. Sorry. Okay, so part 5. This is AI regulations, why we the people need them. And we're going to look at the regulations in the European Union, China, the United States, and in Colorado. So why we the people need AI regulations. This slide is my feeble attempt at not being able to get a picture of a car in there. I made this slide today because I took it from a newsletter I read this weekend, but I couldn't find a car fast enough. So think of AI as a car, vroom. And to big tech, the innovation is the accelerator in the car and regulation is the brakes. Like they always said, they like to go fast and break things, right? So, but to regulations advocates, innovation is the accelerator and regulation is the steering wheel. We need a steering wheel in order to guide the innovation so that AI systems are designed to benefit the public. It's as simple as that. We need regulations to make sure it's for the public benefit. So we're going to look at the EU AI Act, China's AI regulations, US federal AI regulations, and Colorado AI regulations. We need to consider national and state regulations for AI industry because this is a global industry. If someone designs an AI system in the United States but wants to use it in the European Union or China, they need to follow the regulations in those areas. So the European Union has set the high bar for protecting the public and AI users. The EU AI Act will be fully enacted by 2027. The AI Act describes 4 levels of AI risk to the public, from unacceptable risk to minimal risk. The higher the risk level, the more extensive the regulations. So an example of an unacceptable risk would be an AI surveillance of personal data to set individualized prices, wages, access to social services and education, or loan approval. Another example of unacceptable risk is remote use of face or fingerprint scans that can be used instantly and matched against databases in order to determine identity and location. This practice in use by law enforcement risks mass surveillance of a population, although there are exceptions for serious crimes. Both of those examples of unacceptable risk are banned under the European Union AI Act. High risk is systems that are used in healthcare, law enforcement, and education. They have regulations for those uses that are really dense and strict. And I didn't think anybody wanted to hear the specifics. So, limited risk is AI systems that used for chatbots and virtual assistants. The Act requires that limited risk AI systems have clear labels or watermarks marking them as AI generated content. And then minimal risks are video games and spam filters on your email box, and those are not regulated. And the EU AI Act will be enforced through the newly created AI Office. It will implement, oversee, and enforce the new law in 27 countries. Remember that this AI Act in the European Union is the high bar for regulations to date. It makes an effort to protect and secure the public's personal data, biometric and other, and has created an office to manage and enforce it. Okay, so China's AI regulations are different because they're generally top-down government oversight and enforcement to protect government officials and maintain socialist order for the most productive socialist state. So prohibited practices include using generative AI to clone a person's voice or use other biometric data to create deep fakes or public figures without their consent. Public opinion attributes refer to AI systems that are used to sway public opinion away from full support of the Chinese government. And social mobilization capabilities are AI systems that could mobilize the public to demonstrate against the Chinese government. So these risk levels reflect the primary concern in China is to protect the government officials and maintain socialist order. But even in China, AI governance requires maintaining thorough risk management systems and the transparent labeling of AI-generated content. This includes labeling deepfakes and disclosing to the public any service that uses AI. Okay, now we get to the United States and its AI regulations. The U.S. AI regulations are found in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. There are no federal legal requirements in the One Big Beautiful Bill law for AI companies and developers to protect the public, nor to secure the public's data or the user's data, biometric or otherwise. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act does not address damages from deepfakes, unauthorized use of faces and voices, or child safety, especially for those in media, entertainment, or child-focused technology. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act has no requirements for AI products to be clearly labeled as AI-generated content. That One Big Beautiful Bill Act does not offer a legal process for the public to report misuse of AI technology or stolen personal data, to seek remediation, or to seek settlements for victims. And finally, there is no new or established federal agency assigned to oversee the industry and enforce the regulations, because there are no regulations. Okay? So instead, there will be a reliance on existing laws to be applied to the AI industry and enforced by existing government agencies. AI companies are expected to self-report any security breaches, but there is no process for public or users to report breaches, seek remediation, or cash settlements for damage to victims. So, therefore, AI legislation to protect the public has been left to individual states. And as of last summer in 2025, 4 states had passed laws to protect the public's data, and users and their data. They are Colorado, California, Utah, and Texas. However, in December of 2025, President Trump signed an executive order to prevent state-level regulation of the artificial intelligence industry. That executive order instructs the U.S. Justice Department to establish an AI litigation task force with a single mandate to sue states that enact AI laws that the administration deems onerous and excessive. The order also threatens to withhold federal funding from states that do implement AI regulations. So there will be lawsuits. There probably already are. So AI regulation in Colorado, even though they face legal challenges from the current administration, you should know what they cover. So on July 1st, 2023, the Colorado Privacy Act was passed, and it grants Colorado consumers the right to access, correct, delete, and opt out of the processing of their personal data. It did expire in 2025, but Colorado House Bill 241130 took effect on July 1st of 2025, and it replaced and expanded the Colorado Privacy Act to add specifically consumers' biometric data, so your fingerprints and your DNA and all that. The law also requires consent to collect biometric data, and it limits the retention periods, the time for which the biometric data can be kept. It requires deletion protocols when it is deleted. Oh, sorry about that. I got click happy. It prohibits the sale and purchase of biometric identifiers. So with Colorado Bill 24205, Colorado became the first state to enact comprehensive legislation regulating algorithmic discrimination in high-stakes automated decision-making. This law would have imposed extensive obligations on developers and deployers of AI systems used in consequential decisions, such as those related to education, employment, finances, healthcare, housing, and insurance. So there were requirements for impact assessments and risk management policies, and all these things had to be disclosed with the Colorado Attorney General's office with specific time intervals, and there were consumer-facing transparency measures. But alas, the law faced persistent criticism from tech companies, big business groups, and even some consumer advocates. In the end, enforcement of the new law was blocked by federal courts. In 2026, April of 2026, XAI sued Colorado in federal court arguing that this bill violated free speech and forced companies to adopt state-preferred viewpoints. And then, like 2 weeks later, the U.S. Department of Justice intervened in the lawsuit, claiming the law violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and then the court temporarily blocked Colorado from enforcing the law. So the result of these legal pressures was a quick rewrite that ended in the form of Senate Bill 26-189. And the governor did sign that into law. It's a watered-down version that simply requires that businesses clearly notify consumers when technology is being used to make consequential decisions, and it gives consumers the right to appeal the consequential decision. It leaves enforcement of the law to only the Colorado Attorney General. There's no private right of action, and there's a limited time right for the violator to cure the violation. So AI systems will have a global reach and a global market, and that's why regulations are important. If it's developed in the US and deployed for use in the EU, it must comply with the EU AI Act. And regulations can build trust in the new technology and the companies that use them. So what can we do about AI regulations? Well, write to your legislators and encourage them to pass laws that secure the safety and security of the public's data, protect children and other vulnerable members of society, and require that AI-generated products are labeled. The law should also have a process to oversee and enforce those regulations, and to remediate AI system failures, and a means for the public to file claims if their personal data is hacked or stolen. And elect members of Congress who will pass enforceable federal laws to protect the public. So is AI a threat to democracy and to elections? Well, yes, if AI is used to spread disinformation about issues and candidates and to undermine confidence in the election. Yes, if private voter data is leaked and voter groups are targeted to block their access to the ballot. Yes, if AI companies work to serve corporate interests over public interest. And yes, if interacting with AI replaces human-to-human interaction. So how can we find the truth in the age of AI? Well, you use media sources that consistently demonstrate integrity in reporting. Colorado Public Radio and Colorado Sun are two great news sources, along with the Loveland Reporter Herald, the Coloradoan, and the Berthoud Weekly Surveyor. Use the AdFunnist Media Bias Chart to check out your news sources, and subscribe to your local news sources. We want to keep them in business. Watch or listen to news sources on the other end of the spectrum from your usual source. And fact check your news. To counter the spread of fake news and articles, go to fact-checking websites. There's Snopes. You can sign up for Snopes email newsletter, and you'll get that. It comes to my mailbox every day. And PolitiFact has a AI fact check. AP has a fact check. PBS has a fact check. I think they use PolitiFact. And this says that the Denver Library has a fact-checking tools. So maybe the libraries up here have it too. So dig deep into your news sources and ask, does my go-to news source have an AI policy, and what is it? Does my media's AI policy keep subscribers and advertisers' information safe from hacking and sharing? And do my media sources practice transparency and label when and to what extent a news report is filed using AI? So learn how to recognize and avoid sharing fake news. AI is here to stay. So beware of it and learn about AI and be aware of its capabilities, advantages, and disadvantages. So you can prepare for the midterms though by attending a live forum and hear candidates answer questions in real time. Read the Colorado ballot information book, the Blue Book, and attend a League of Women Voters ballot issue presentation and bring your friends. And if you don't have time to attend these events, go to Vote 411 and you'll find recordings of candidate forums, personal statements, and Q&As posted from candidates so you can learn their qualifications, experience, and positions on current local issues. And we have League of Women Voters of Larimer County has a great web page that has all of the voter service information you need, and you can find the schedules for the ballot issue presentations and the candidate forums on those pages too. Check your voter registration and then be sure to vote. So next Monday, we're going to hear from a panel of experts on the information ecosystem. They include Professor Jeff Borg. He's a lead faculty in poli-sci from Front Range Community College. Dr. Nikhil Krishnaswamy. He is with computer science at Colorado State University. Dr. Natalie Pennington is with communication studies at CSU. John Valenkamp is the regional editor of the Loveland Reporter Herald, and Dr. David Wolfgang is journalism and media communications with Colorado State University. And just remember, it is on a Monday, not a Tuesday, August 10th, Monday. So, do you have any questions, comments? It appears that the best program for the U.S. would be to implement every measure the One Big Beautiful Bill did not cover. Yeah, I don't think it covered anything. All I read was what it didn't cover. So, oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's kind of the stuff about the brain stuff, the neurotechnology, that is very creepy. I don't know how many people have earbuds in now, but I bet not a lot. So, okay, well, Barb,
So, is this information you just got available anywhere else? Is it online anywhere? I mean,
the recording will be online, so you can watch it again if you want to. And the book did follow Cindy Otis's book, True or False, pretty closely. But the thing is that her book was written in 2019, I think published in 2019, and a lot of this stuff just isn't, it's too new. It wasn't in there. So
thank you.
you're welcome. Kathy?
Hi, I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand on my iPad. I have a son and daughter who teach at two different universities, and my husband is talking in the background. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We have had multiple conversations about AI and how it's impacting their teaching. And the responses, the written responses they're getting from students. Now, my daughter, who is an art teacher at Oregon State, said this weekend that she is not going to assign any writing anymore because she just keeps getting what is not creative thought for her students, and she can tell it's not creative thought. But she said, I'm lucky because the art that they have to produce forces them to think creatively. Okay, so at least it's getting them a chance to problem solve creatively that way. Our son is a political science professor and has been having multiple problems with similar kinds of obvious AI products that his students have been giving him. I think he's decided now this coming year that he's going to go back to Blue Books, which is when I taught at the university, that's what I used all the time. And my students, I had 3-hour blocks, and my students had to write their midterms in class, so they couldn't use something like that. So I know the professors are going back to that type of technology, or lack of technology, maybe old technology, Blue Books. So it is definitely impacting education. It's impacting the level of what creative thinking and mental problem solving that you would expect to see at a university level.
Yeah.
Which I think personally, when we've talked about it, sorry about our cat that we're boarding here, but it's getting part of the conversation. But I think it's going to eventually create another class system of people who have learned how to think and learned how to grapple with problems, and those who have made the choice not to do that, not to think that way. And I think that's going to end up again having another class system that's not going to be good for our country.
No, I don't think so either.
Mhm.
You're right. Because if these kids are growing up letting AI think for them,
Mhm.
and they can't do the critical thinking to question, that it's part of democracy. That's
Yes.
what it is, a part of democracy.
Yeah. Yes.
But at the same time, I have to say, AI does make everything, I mean, I don't know if it's AI, but that makes everything so much more accessible, not AI necessarily, but the digital online media. It just makes everything more accessible to people. And I worry sometimes that uh, information is going to become so that if you don't have money, you cannot get information. And that's not good either,
Yeah.
It's basically that's how subscriptions are now. It's if you have enough money, you can be informed, and if you don't have money, you can't be informed. So
Although
there's
Jerry's talked about archive, is it archive.ai, where you could search like New York Times articles and all sorts of things in that, with a paywall that people have copied into archive, and be able to read them.
well, that's see. So there you go.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
good sides and bad sides to it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I really appreciate all of you coming. If you thought this was a worthwhile series of webinars, please tell your friends that they can go to LWV -larimercounty.org and find all the recordings. And don't forget to come to our expert panel. I think that would be really interesting.
Yes.
I'd love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.